Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the world of DevSecOps.
Okay.
You sent us like a ton of material on this,
Yeah.
everything from, just what it is to the big companies involved, and even some stuff about Malaysia's cybersecurity scene.
Yeah.
It's really striking, actually, just how important this whole cybersecurity thing seems to be right now. Like, what is it about right now that makes this so crucial?
Well, I think it's fascinating, right? I mean, we live in a world where everything relies on software.
Hmm.
Every device, every app, every website, it's all vulnerable.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit. DevSecOps.
Mm.
What exactly are we talking about when we say that?
So imagine baking security into the actual DNA of software. It's not some add-on, not a separate team. It's got to be woven into every single step.
Okay, so instead of like building a house and being like, oh, right, we need an alarm system,
Correct.
DevSecOps is like incorporating the alarm while you're building.
Exactly. You're building that security in from the ground up, makes it way more robust, more resilient.
So at DevSecOps, you're always testing, always finding those weak points and fixing them throughout the entire process. You're not scrambling to fix huge issues right before launch.
Right, exactly. Or even worse, after something bad happens.
And catching those issues early, that's got to save so much time, money, headache.
Oh, absolutely. And it's bigger than just efficiency. It creates this whole culture of security. In a real DevSecOps environment, everyone's responsible. Developers, operations, security pros. It's all got to be collaborative.
This sounds almost too good to be true. Are there any downsides companies should be aware of?
Well, there are always challenges with any new approach, especially one as big as this. It takes a significant investment upfront. Tools, training. Companies need to make sure their people have the right skills, the right resources. It's not easy.
So it's not a magic wand, you're saying. It's a commitment. Speaking of commitments, we noticed you included some info about companies that specialize in this. Who are the heavy hitters, the big names in this DevSecOps world? Going through this material, I'm seeing some big names here. Checkmarks, Veracode, even giants like IBM and Deloitte. They're all over this DevSecOps thing.
Yeah, it's a real mix. You've got those specialists, each with their own little corner of the market, and then you have the bigger players, right? Folding these DevSecOps ideas into what they already do.
Yeah.
Shows you how much things are changing.
Yeah, it's not just some small trend anymore. And these companies are definitely seeing the demand. I mean, Checkmark's almost 300 million in revenue last year. That's huge.
It is, and that's just one piece of a much bigger picture. Global cybersecurity market projected to hit over 370 billion by 2028. Companies are realizing you can't just tack on security at the end. It's got to be baked in from the start.
And speaking of baking in, you included some stuff about the different types of security testing involved in DevSecOps. It's a lot more than just running a virus scan, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Lots of different ways to approach it, but three core types always come up. SAST, DAST, and SCA. Think of them like different lenses you use to look for vulnerabilities.
Okay, so what are these different lenses looking for? Like, what are we talking about here?
So let's start with SAST, static application security testing. Imagine like a fine-toothed comb going through every single line of your code. It's looking for weaknesses before the software even runs.
So it's like finding problems in the blueprint before you start building the house.
That's it. SAST helps you find those flaws early on when they're easier, cheaper to fix. Like there was this case with a big online retailer used SAST and found a huge vulnerability in their payment system. Caught it during development, prevented a massive data breach.
Wow, that's incredible. Really shows you how important it is to catch those things early.
It really does. Now, DAST dynamic application security testing. This is different. Instead of just the common, DAST tests the application while it's running.
Oh, okay. So it's like someone actually trying to break into the house to test the security system, right?
Exactly. DAST simulates real-world attacks, looking for any way a hacker could get in.
Makes sense. So SAST checks the blueprints, DAST tests the actual building. Where does SCA fit in?
Right, so SEA, or Software Composition Analysis, this one focuses on open source components, which make up a huge part of modern software.
Ah, so it's like checking the building materials themselves for any hidden problems.
Exactly that. Open source is great, but it can have vulnerabilities too. SCA tools scan your code, find every open source piece you're using, and flag any known issues.
That's got to be so valuable, like having a security checklist for every brick and board in the house.
Yeah.
All this talk about different testing, it really highlights how complex this cybersecurity landscape is.
Yeah.
But, you also send some info about how this is all playing out in a specific place. Malaysia, What's the story there? So we've been talking about all these layers of security testing and how important they are in DevSecOps. But you included some interesting stuff about how this is all happening in Malaysia. What's the story there?
Well, it's interesting, right? You see this drive in Malaysia to be a major player in cybersecurity,
Hmm.
especially in Southeast Asia. Lots of innovation, but they've got unique challenges too.
Yeah, you mentioned things like limited market size,
Mm.
not enough funding, and struggling to find top talent. That's tough, trying to compete globally with those limitations.
It is. Those are definitely hurdles. The Malaysian market, it's growing fast, but still small compared to, the US or Europe. Harder to get those big investments, especially for R&D, which is so key in cybersecurity.
And I bet finding and keeping those really skilled people, that's got to be a huge challenge too.
Oh, for sure. It's a global fight for cybersecurity talent. Malaysian companies, they need to be creative, not just in attracting those people, but keeping them too.
It sounds like they're finding ways, though, to not just survive, but really make a name for themselves. What are some of the strategies they're using?
One thing we're seeing is a focus on international stuff, right?
Yeah.
Partnering up. Instead of just the Malaysian market, they're going global from day one,
Hmm.
working with foreign companies, tapping into those bigger markets, positioning themselves in that ASEAN region.
Smart. Use their location as an advantage in a fast-growing area.
Exactly. And it's not just about the existing markets. There's a big push for innovation, building totally new solutions for these new cybersecurity threats. We're seeing a
Wow.
lot in AI-powered threat detection, blockchain security, things like that. Places where Malaysian companies could really become leaders.
Turning those challenges into ways to stand out.
Right. And you can't forget the Malaysian government's role in all of this. They've got these initiatives, the Malaysia Cybersecurity Strategy, for example, trying to strengthen the whole country's cybersecurity, but also help the industry grow at the same time.
That kind of backing from the government, that can make a real difference for an industry that's still finding its footing.
Totally. It shows investors, everyone really, that Malaysia is serious. They want to be the place for cybersecurity. And that's huge for the success of those Malaysian companies, especially in DevSecOps.
It's really cool to see how these companies are making their mark in such a competitive field. So as we wrap up this deep dive into DevSecOps, what's the key takeaway for our listener, someone who might not be a tech whiz, but uses software every day?
Great question. I think the biggest thing is realizing that security, it's not just an IT issue anymore, it's everyone's responsibility. Not just about having the best antivirus or a strong password. It's about understanding that the software we use, the apps, everything, it all needs to be built with security in mind from the start.
It's about demanding better from the companies we trust with our data, with our whole digital lives, really.
Exactly. And that's where this whole DevSecOps thing comes in. It's about shifting from reacting to problems to preventing them in the first place. Building a future where security isn't an afterthought, but just built in.
A world where we can all feel a bit safer navigating this digital world. This deep dive has given me, and hopefully everyone listening, a lot to think about. As you explore the world of technology, remember, security matters. Be curious, ask questions, and don't settle for anything less. That's it for this deep dive into DevSecOps. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.